Yes, we are live. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. It's Sunday, the 21st of November. It's 8 o'clock. And this is the tNb Gaming Podcast live from the Gaming Pantry and remotely from around the UK. Hope you're all well. Yes, we can already see we got some in the comments. Al's here. Very good evening to you, Al37 Retro. Yes, good to see you here again. Thanks for being a regular commenter. UK Video Game Pirate. Brilliant, you're here. Yeah, I know you were the last one you missed because you fell asleep. But the good thing was it wasn't a result of actually watching the podcast, so that's a good thing. But yeah, thanks for everybody who's joining us early this evening. Good evening to Susie. Hope you're well, and nice to see you here as well. Yeah, so we've got bit of a topic of discussion tonight. We've got the fifth generation of consoles, Saturn, N64, PlayStation 1 to discuss with our special guest, who I'll be bringing in very, very shortly. Retro Claire's here. I think she's turned the 49ers game off. So I've got no idea what the score's going to be. When we're doing that, we'll also be talking about various gaming things and whatever comes along really within the next sort of 2 hours. So it's going to be one of those. It's going to be a bit of a fly by the seat of your pants sort of broadcast, but that's the way we do things. We know we do. Good evening to James from It's Much More. Good to see you here, James. Saw your latest video on your pickups down around Nottingham. Look very good around there. Lots of charity shops. So haven't seen James's video, pop along and check that one out. Right, so let's bring in our guest this week before we start bringing in the tNb panel. And what can I say about our guest? Well, he's broadcasting from quite a long way away, so hopefully his internet will be all right. And you'll know him very well. He sort of battles for space around his house. So hopefully he won't be interrupted too much by the menagerie, which is in the Game Zone Bird Room. It's James. Good evening, my friend.
Game Zone Bird Room. Hello, Retro Bear. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. I'm glad you did that yourself, because usually we do that for you, but I thought, no, you do it best. You know, you are the originator. So
I think Big Game Out can give me a run for my money.
That's it, isn't it? That's it. Oh, he can do good impressions of everybody. Retro Dome Music. Good to see you here again. Big all the way from Germany. Good to see you. Paul the Ink Northerners in as well. That's great. My pleasure, James. And when he would have said good evening, but you just watched Rangers. Yeah, I've just seen the score. So yeah, not a good day if you're a Rangers fan. Dog Room. How is the Dog Room? Is that Dog Room coming along?
Yeah, the Dog Room's coming along. Yeah, got another one now.
Oh, how is that now? 4? 3?
Three dogs now, yeah.
Mm.
I think she wants 2 more to battle the birds then.
She'll be starting her own channel.
Five dogs, you know.
Have you got enough space for all these animals?
Nah, not really.
No. Oh, well, they're fighting for space. But she'll be wanting her own channel.
I have about that much of the bed.
That's it, yeah. So we when we had a dog, she was always on the bed in the middle. You can guarantee it. You know, you get cozy and then nice and warm, and the dog jumps right in the middle, and that's it.
But
then
they're always that way, aren't they?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Marcus is here. Dad and Lads Gaming. James should just extend his house if he needs room. His neighbours would not bother. There's about 12 miles away. Well, that's very, very true. You know, you are sort of quite remotely out there, aren't you? Yeah. Anyway, good to have you here, mate. And a subject that you've asked us to sort of discuss and go through. And I know it's a gaming area very close to your heart. So we're looking forward to this, because systems like this, that era does split people. You know, we have camps of people who like certain systems, and this era don't like other ones, indifferent about others. It could be quite an interesting discussion, anyway. So
great era, which we will chat about a bit later.
I was going to say, it falls in that point where, you know, older gamers like myself, you know, we're sort of looking at the mid-'80s, late 80s, and then the next generation of gamers picked up the PlayStation 1 in the mid-'90s to late 90s. That's that big era. So, yeah, I think a lot of people will be joining in on this one tonight. So if you are going to be listening to us and watching us this evening, don't forget to join in with the comments, ask any questions, or raise any subjects you want. I'll try my best, as always, to get through the comments. But let's bring in one of the tNb boys tonight. It's very, very quick forward to that. James, It's Much More, says he's never owned a Saturn or a PS1. So this is ideal for you, mate. We'll be selling you one of these.
Leave the stream. Leave the street. No, only joking, James. Only joking.
So we'll have to see how we can convince him. Anyway, let's bring in Pete Fighter 2, who's with us tonight, all the way from the Lab Loft in Sheffield. Pete, good evening.
Good evening. I'm just absolutely reeling from James not owning a PS1. He must have been the one guy who didn't own a PS1.
Even I had a PS1. You know, and I don't get these things straight away. But no, I had one. During
I had about 6.
Yeah, I've got 4.
6.
I was moving the stuff around the rooms. Been renovated, and I'm amazed. I got 2 boxed and 2 loose. I didn't think I had that many. And I sold one a couple of years back, so I had 5 at one point. Just amassing PlayStation 1s.
I've only got 3 at the minute if you count the classic. If not, I've got like the big one and the little one. But yeah, over my time, I've had probably at least one of every model of PS1, just because I kept wearing them out or breaking them and stuff when I was a kid. But yeah, to never actually have a PS1, it's mental.
UK Video Game Pirate says he did it in reverse Saturn N64 and then PlayStation 1. Paul owned a Saturn, but he never played it.
Oh, come on.
Terrible.
Terrible. Martin's been watching the new Doctor Who, and he is the new Doctor, apparently. So congratulations, Martin. We'll be seeing less of you on YouTube, I expect now.
He's made it big time, hasn't he?
He hasn't. Anyway, he makes you keep that quiet. No wonder he's not been doing an awful lot on his channel. I'm just wondering. What, sorry, Pete?
I said he must have been working on his PhD.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, I had no idea he was in the running for it, but there we go. James, I was a 10 years old. I deliberately chose to get an N64 instead of a PlayStation 1. Big game out. I got a Saturn this year. So
only this year.
Well, I've had mine.
He's
I've had
probably
mine
got
for
a bigger
long time.
Saturn collection than me now.
I'm pretty sure he has. He's got a massive amount of PlayStation, massive amount of games for anything. Pete, modern look I'm going to be going for. No hair but beard, the real man look.
But no hair thing wasn't voluntary.
Real men come from the north. I think that's what Paul's trying to say, but there we go. Speaking of the north, Gordon's here. Give 84 Gaming. Good evening.
Yeah, fellow Scotlander.
Okay, so James got a couple of questions. James, we'll get to the topic shortly. We'll just do some guff beforehand, and then we'll get into the meat of it. The reason we're doing that is because we're expecting Sean Retro Games Revive to be with us as soon as he's finished his tea. But he's running a little bit late tonight, so he's the other panel member this evening, but he'll be with us shortly anyway. Right, so we usually sort of kick off with what people have been playing. I know, James, you got sent a game recently, which I got sent as well from the same source. So, and I know you've played nice. It. Mine's still sealed, but I should be playing it at some point. What was that game, mate?
I get many sealed games, so it was absolutely a wonderful surprise and a wonderful gift actually from Liam from over at Retro Ram 88. Absolutely top man.
Yeah. So what was it, and what do you think of it?
It was.
Cause I know you're a fan of the series, so you'll know more about it.
Shenmue, however you want to pronounce it. Shenmue, yeah. I've just only started it today. It's only gone through the intro and the first few missions and that. But yeah, it brought back so much nostalgia. It was very, very similar design to the original, which was really nice. I mean, you couldn't interact with as much. Obviously, money constraints. I mean, the original had a massive budget. I think it's still the most expensive game ever made to this day. Could be wrong, but you could tell that they really tried their best to sort of recreate the original. It is. I'm loving it at the moment. Graphics, graphically, where it's on the modern consoles and that, it looks nice. It uses Unreal Engine. So it looks top quality stuff, but the mechanics are more modern, unlike the Dreamcast version. So it's got modern gameplay to it.
Okay, Pete, have you played it?
I have, yeah. I think it was last year or the year before. I played through all 3 of them on the PS4, and yeah, it's. I don't know. It's I wouldn't hold it in the same regard as like at least the first one for sure. But it is a really good game, and I don't understand why it got quite a bit of hate at the time, because I think people were expecting it to be more like a modern feeling game, and it really isn't. It really does feel like you're playing an old Dreamcast game. But that was the appeal to it for me. I just really, I really enjoyed it, and it was nice to see what I thought was going to be a bit of a closure from the series. Spoiler alert, it does set on for another sequel. But yeah, did really enjoy it, and I would recommend it to anybody, especially if they enjoyed the games back in the day. Same voice acting, the terrible voice acting, terrible script. That's
I was quite surprised about that. I really actually liked that, hearing Ryu's voice come out, and I thought, oh,
same
bloke.
actor and everything. Yeah,
same chap.
He still does his "I see" for everything.
I see.
Yeah, that's my wife. We played. Well, we didn't play it together. She was watching for the bulk of me playing the Shenmue games, and we just loved the dialogue and everything. And there's a bit in the first one where the love interest confesses a love to you and everything like that. And you have the option of reciprocating it, but you have another option to just question her about your dad's death, and she's like, "Oh, Ryu, I love you so much, and I'm having to leave, and I'll probably never see you again." And he just goes, "I see."
I see.
And then it's like, "Have you seen any black cars around lately?" Just completely dismisses what she's saying. It's brilliant.
It sounds like one of my conversations with Mrs. Bear, to be honest with you, but it's quite true to life, I expect. I mean, I've never actually ever played one of these games. I mean, I've got the second one on the original Xbox, but the first one passed me by, so I'm going to have to go back in time and play this. I mean, do I play 3, or do I need to play the first 2 first before I play 3?
It's not like play number 1 first.
Yeah, it's definitely it's not like sequels. It's like part 1, part 2, and part 3 of one game.
All right.
They all start
interconnecting stories and that.
They all start directly after the last one finishes. I think my cat's doing something.
I was hoping something clean. See, James, it's much more like myself. He's never played 1 and 2, and people have been asking me what I want for Christmas. So if anybody is watching, and I expect there's one person watching, a copy of Shenmue number 1 would be great, because then I can actually start the process of playing them.
Yeah, get 1 and 2 remastered on the PS4.
Are they on the PlayStation 4? Are they?
There's 1 and 2 remastered and then 3 separate.
Well, I only buy modern games now, so that's what it is.
It's the modern bear, isn't it?
The postmodern retro bear. That's what it is. I bought another PlayStation 4 game today, which will be on a pickup video in the future. Video game Pirates. Been playing Forza Horizon 5 and Call of Duty Vanguard. I really want to play one of the Forza Horizon games. I really do. I've got the
brilliant games.
I've got the original Motorsport. I've got all 4 original Motorsport ones. I haven't got any of the Horizon games, so I really want to pick one of those up.
When I first got Game Pass on the Xbox, I did try Forza Horizon 4, I think it was, the one set in the UK. And it felt good, and playing it was good and everything. It was just the attitude of the game. It's all I don't know, it's just far too boy racer for me. And it's the kind of everything is named Horizon, and they seem to want to say the word Horizon at every opportunity. And it's like, they refer to you as Horizon, the festival you're at is Horizon, and obviously you're playing Forza Horizon. So it's like you'll start the game and some overly enthusiastic sort of London-y kind of accent will come up and be like, hey, welcome Horizon, welcome to the Horizon Festival. You're playing Forza Horizon, now go on and reach that Horizon. I'm like,
yeah,
I can't do this. I cannot do this.
It sounds a bit.
Is that an American accent?
It was very good.
I don't know. It's just an accent. It wasn't American in the game. It was like
it was from the Welsh part of America. I'll give him that, but it was a good attempt. Generation Pictle Stews here. Good to see you. Snoopy Man 79. Yes, hello. Good to see you here. Been here a few times. Martin says he'll lend me his TARDIS to go back to the Dreamcast era. Thank you, Martin. I grew up. I say grew up in the Dreamcast. Well, I'll say grew up in because I grew up in the Dreamcast era. The Dreamcast era just passed me by completely. Paul Link Northern has also said,
Great
era, I don't know what. I think I was just too invested in the PlayStation 1 at that point. I'd heard of the Dreamcast. I knew they sponsored the Arsenal, but that was about it really. Just didn't register me.
I didn't get a Dreamcast until after I'd had a PS2. I went back and got one, and the game I went back for was Shenmue. But
right, yeah.
Good game to go back for, actually.
Yeah. That's another topic, and games you go back in time for just to play them. yeah, Stuart makes a very good point. Don't forget to tick the like button, folks, if you like to do that, and thumbs up the video would be lovely. James, I was a backseat gamer for that one, so watch your brother play through those. Martin, my advice is play Forza Horizon 4, do what I did, and set your name as Sausage. They seem to like saying sausage a lot. He's got far too much time on his hands. Well, he's the doctor, so I suppose he can now go and do things.
He's got
like
that time machine, hasn't he?
That's it, yeah. Forza Horizon is boring as hell, in my opinion. And Rock and Roller, yes, he's indeed here. And thanks for popping into the Fall Guys stream on Friday as well. So good to see you here again. 20 people watching us at the moment, which is great. Pete, I know you said you haven't been playing much, but did you say there's one game you wanted to talk about, or did I imagine that?
Yeah, there is one game, and there is a word in it.
Thank God for that. I thought I was going mad.
I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn, not Forza Horizon.
Of all the things to talk about.
Yeah, I've just been really deep into this again. I finished Far Cry 6, which I was playing on last time. I don't want to go into that because I kind of want to have a little bit of a rant about it on my channel, because while I did enjoy it, there were things that annoyed me. But yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn, it's the second time I've got into that, and I've bought the DLC for it as well, the Frozen whatever, I don't know what it is. It's where you go into the snowy bit. I think it's Frozen North, Frozen Wilds, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I've just been playing through that, and it's really, like, back when it first came out, one of my friends had a PS4 Pro, and I just had a slim PS4, and I wasn't really taken aback by the visuals on the game at all. But my friend who's playing it on the Pro was saying how good it looks all the time and how amazing it looks, and I kind of didn't believe him. But I'm playing it now. I'm playing it through the PS5, and normally when you play a PS4 game through a PS5 and it's got the Pro features unlocked, you get to choose whether you want like graphical fidelity or like frame rate and smoothness and stuff. So I was sort of going in the settings, trying to change the visuals, change the visual settings and everything like that, the performance settings, and it wasn't letting me. And I was like, why the hell won't it let me do this? What's wrong with it? So I googled it. Turns out the PlayStation 5 just handles both fine. So yeah, playing it, I've been playing it on the PS5, like with all the visual like extras from the PS4 Pro, plus 60 frames per second in 4K, and it actually looks amazing. And I really can't wait for the next one to come out in February now, just to see how like a full like generation update will affect that. I mean, the leap in graphics hasn't been as strong. It seems to get worse every generation, in my opinion. But what they can squeeze out of it, and like first-party Sony games do tend to squeeze more power out of things than a lot of things like that. So I really can't wait for that. But yeah, playing through this one, the last time it took me a good few hours to get into it. This time it just gripped me straight away, and I really, I take back anything negative I might have said about it back in the day. I probably take that back now. I properly love this game, and I'm enjoying every second of it.
It's grown on you then. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good.
It really has. For those who don't know, it's like a post-apocalyptic thing. There's robot dinosaurs and robot animals walking around, and the sort of humanity sort of regressed into like tribal kind of things where you've got bows and arrows and spears and stuff, and you're taking down these big robot dinosaurs with spears and bows and arrows. For some reason, you're trying to figure out what happened to the world back in the day to get it this way, because you've managed to find information about the sort of world as it is now, or in the near future. And
is it open world, Pete?
Yeah, it is open world. Yeah, it's very sort of Assassin's Creedy, kind of like, sort of like a map clearing game. Like you'll get to like giant walking, like they look like a Brachiosaurus thing, but it's got like the Starship Enterprise on its head. And you sort of climb to the top of those, and you'll like unlock part of the map, just like when you like climb the towers in Assassin's Creed or climb the radio towers in the old Far Cry games. So it's that kind of feel to it. It's sort of open world in like sections. You have to go through like certain gates through a route to get to the sections, but it doesn't really feel enclosed like a lot of them do. It does feel like you're just in like some kind of Skyrim world where you can just go anywhere. So yeah, anyone who's not played Horizon, I fully recommend that. It's well worth a play, and I just cannot wait now till the next one comes out.
Well, it's obviously inspired a few people. I mean, Generation Pixel commented they didn't know about Horizon Zero Dawn on the PlayStation 5, so he thanks you very much for that.
No
And also, Gib 84, Horizon Zero Dawn is epic. Just want to touch very, very quickly before because Sean's arrived, so I'll bring him in a second. If you're wondering why I've ignored you, Sean, I'm not ignoring you. Pete was talking, so I'll be with you in a second. Guardians of the Galaxy on the Xbox. Now, I've heard about this, and some people are saying it's, Gordon says it's really good there, but I've heard it's a bit mundane. Have either of you heard of this game coming out for the consoles at the moment, or looking to get it?
I am looking to get it. I've not heard. Obviously, I've heard of it because I'm looking to get it. I didn't pre-order it, which I normally do because I'm not a fan of the franchise. And I thought, the Avengers game that came out a couple of years ago was dog shit. So, sorry. I didn't pre-order it, but apparently it's got really good reviews, and it's like a nice sort of focused single-player game, which isn't going to take 70 hours to finish. So I'm quite interested in picking it up now, but I think I'm going to wait until after Christmas when the sales hit.
Yeah. And any interest for that one for you, James, at all?
No, I'm not really collecting for modern consoles.
Right.
I've just lost interest. Too expensive, the games. I don't know, just too expensive. It's not like you really own the games, is it, either? You have to download everything. Once you put that disc in, it takes ages. And I know the PS1, the PS5, and the Series bloody X or whatever it's called nowadays. It's got that SDD, a solid state drive. That's quicker. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not really interested at the moment. I'm more interested in me retro.
Yeah,
I wouldn't go next gen yet. I honestly wouldn't. As somebody who has gone fully next gen, I wouldn't do it. There's no point. Games are coming out on both systems, and there's not much difference. And to be honest, I can see financially why. Because if no one can get the consoles, then why would they bring games out exclusively on a new console? Because then the games just won't sell. So I can see why it is, and hopefully it'll give this generation a bit longer to live by if it doesn't pick up steam for a couple of years. But yeah, honestly, I would advise anybody just to hold off a bit because it's really not worth it at the minute. But
Stuart says he's heard great things about Guardians of the Galaxy and good sources. I expect those good sources are the makers of the game, Sony and Microsoft. Gordon says dialogue are rightly fantastic. It's a blast, but agrees with you, Pete. The Avengers game has taken the shine off a little bit. Paul's gone into type bastard mode. I'm on my Christmas embargo where I don't buy new stuff so people have things to buy me. UK Video Game Pirate bought the new Guardians of the Galaxy of £34 of eBay. Can you dig games and toys? I just buy the games I want and then tell the missus what she owes me. That's one way to do it. Did Pete say the Xbox has an STD? Was it James says the Xbox has an STD? That's interesting. Pete, is that the red ring of death? I don't know, possibly both. It sounds to be like a STD anyway, doesn't it? I'm sorry, so you have the red ring of death, sir. Please take these antibiotics for the 6 weeks.
It just sounds like something you get after a curry.
That's it, yeah. Right, he's arrived. I don't leave him sitting there any longer, so otherwise you'll lose interest or fall asleep or something. It's a very good evening to Sean at Retro Games Revived.
Evening, everybody. Evening, James. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, mate. You?
Good.
I see you've come sponsored tonight.
Yeah, it's holidays are coming and all that, aren't they?
Holiday, yeah. Christmas as sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Isn't this Christmas special?
Hey, no.
As well,
He's got Christmas. It's like everybody else. It's like bloody November. It's not Christmas yet. You've still got a couple of weeks to go. Oh, good. He's got a Christmas hat as well. This is for the man who's going Christmas food shopping tomorrow night. So I can't really complain. Are you all right, Sean? Everything okay?
Yes, I am. I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I'm fashionably late today, as usual. So...
Yeah, drunk Sean is back. Surprised Sean is awake. That's how long he was backstage. Yes, that's why I brought him in case he'd nodded off.
I know. It's been a long day. I've been working today, so back at work for my 4 shifts. But it hasn't been too bad actually. Hey, look at that.
That's quality.
Oh, Pete, you've muted
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to wear a jumper as well, but it's far too hot up here.
Oh dear. We do have two more of these to go before Christmas. We've got one in 2 weeks' time, and then the 19th of December is going to be our sort of Christmas podcast. So that's where are we now? 4 weeks' time. So we'll be doing that anyway. We've already got that lined up and who that is. At last, somebody older than me is here. That must be you, Sean, I'm guessing. I don't know. Wait, you've joined us at the right time before we get into this week's topic.
Yes.
What have you been playing since we last spoke to you?
I'm going to say the usual, but a slight variation. Because for a while now, I bought, well, it was released a year ago, and that was Call of Duty Cold War. But I've only had it in the last couple of months or so, but I never got around to playing it until recently. And I fired it up and really enjoyed it. I played the campaign mode. Very short game. It only took me a couple of hours. I did it in an afternoon. But I really enjoyed it. I must admit, I really enjoyed it. Some of the stories that you go through in the campaign are quite trippy, actually. Your character kind of gets drugged. And it has some quite surreal moments in it. But no, on the whole, it is a good game. Really good. Some of it's based in Vietnam. It's based in like the 80s, the 70s and 80s kind of era. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's took me a while to play it. Like I say, it's been out a year, but yeah, it'll be the same with Vanguard. This new COD, I'll probably get it a year before I buy it. Wait for it to come down in price, and then play that. But
I thought you got Vanguard.
No, not yet.
Oh, I thought you had it.
Not as yet.
Oh, is that Christmas?
From our sponsors, Coca-Cola.
Yes, yeah. Anything else, or just that one? Apart from Fall Guys,
that is it. Apart from Fall Guys, yeah. No, that's it, mate.
We didn't get any better after you left on Friday.
No, I believe Eddie joined as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that's how we mentioned it earlier. We not only managed to get Eddie to join, we actually managed to got him to pay for a complete year's worth of PlayStation Plus subscription. So it cost him 40 quid to come and join us for about an hour and a half before me and Al decided it was bedtime at midnight. But yeah, that was good. I'll have to do that again. But yeah, that was good on Friday. It was good fun. That we haven't done that for a few weeks. So yeah, very, very good. Right then, chaps. So the reason we're here and the reason we have James with us tonight is because when we were talking about trying to get a guest on, we always try and base the podcast around the guest's topic that they want to discuss, and if they're an expert or just something they're really interested in. We apologising for it's a good one. This one, I only got to say one of them, and Pete will be off. That'll be it. We'll just put him main screen for 20 minutes. He'll be well away. And James sort of messaged me when we said, "Oh, you're interested in coming on?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I'd like to do this particular subject." So, and I think it's a good one. Like I said, one of them Pete will go off on. I know Sean's collecting for a specific game range for the other one. If you haven't seen any of his recent videos, and I've got a particular hatred for one of them as well. So technically, he's picked a really good subject to do. But we're talking about the PlayStation 1. We're talking about the N64. We're talking about the Sega Saturn. What's the interest here for you, James? Why do you want to come on and talk about these?
I think it was a great generation of games. You know, obviously, it was the evolution of going from 2D into the 3D. So we had all these new worlds that we could explore, like three-dimensional. Like, so you had 360 degrees angles you can explore. It was a good time, you know, and I think it was probably the last time where it was an actual proper console war as well, because it was still coming from that period of the SNES and the Mega Drive, and it sort of carried on. Mm-hmm. But obviously you got this new sort of console in the mix, the Devil's console. And so obviously Nintendo knows that Sony's got a large amount of money in their bank to really promote this. Sega's thinking, oh shit, how are we going to compete now? Nintendo's a giant, but this company is like fucking runs the world basically compared to when it comes to like money in their like reserves and that. And yeah, it was very, very interesting, and the different technologies that they decided to use in each of the systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because we had because Sega were probably technically, I suppose, ahead of everybody else because they'd already developed this technology with the Mega CD, so they were already into CD based games. Obviously, we had that collaboration between between Sony and Nintendo, which didn't work out. So they were working on a disc-based console, which never sort of went off. Sony went off and did their own thing. So I got the PlayStation 1, and Nintendo basically said, you know what, we're going to do exactly what we've done before. We're going to bring out cartridges. And it was an absolutely fascinating time because you got, as you said, you got the two big juggernauts. You got Sony, who, you know, probably at that point in time, yes, they dabbled a little bit with getting involved in consoles, but technically stayed out of it, and now we're going to bring their own thing out. Now, it's exactly the same when Microsoft bought the Xbox out. It's like, what are they doing? You know, they make PCs. Why are they going to start doing this? Sony at the time were famous for making televisions and Walkmans and CD players, so what the hell are they going to be bringing to a game market? It's so, in a way, Sega had a jump on them, the established market name. The N64, was the N64 released the last of the three, wasn't it? I think, if I remember, it was the last one to come out. Yeah. So they were way behind everybody else, but they stuck to what they did. And then for some reason, Sony, right in the middle, just took over. And now here we are, now nearly 30 years later, 25 plus years later, they're pretty much dominating the market.
Impressive, isn't it?
It is when you think about it, because you think about the amount of people who've tried to come into it. You know, the 3DO and the CDI, and they both fell by the wayside. And now, if somebody decided to bring a new console out, you'd be going, "What on earth are you playing that? There's no way you're gonna try and muscle that in." It's two or three manufacturers at once, isn't it? And that's it. It's a closed group.
It was like just clever marketing. They made the system quite easy and simple to produce games on, which always helps systems. Obviously, they had that massive bank account to get all these third-party games to make games as well. So, you know, they knew their business of what they wanted to achieve, and dominated, as you said, for over 20 years now.
Let's just take some questions from the panel. Oh, James brought his dog in. There we go. One dog in.
It's the new
it's a new one. Oh, look at that. Let's just bring it old. Let's bring it centre stage. Oh, look at that. There we go.
Yeah, look, you're famous, baby. Look.
Oh, look at that. Oh, there we go. There we go. But it's better looking than all four of us as well, so that's all right.
He'll get you the views, mate. He'll get you
the views. Yeah. Questions comes to the guys. I remember choosing Saturn over PlayStation because Saturn was more expensive, so at the time I thought it meant to be better. Yeah. That probably wasn't the greatest thing. First, what comes to mind, we got on the PlayStation with a demo disc. Today, quite clearly, but they are indeed. A lot of people now collecting their demo discs for PlayStation 1.
I very nearly went into it, actually. I was looking into it. I've actually got a list on my phone of every demo, official PlayStation Magazine demo disc, because I was going to go into it because it's such a massive nostalgia hit for me, because, back in the day, you couldn't afford games. Oh, when you're a kid. I mean, kids nowadays, you ask them if they want to buy something in a shop, and they just pull out a money clip for like 700 quid in it. But back in the day, like, all we had like a few quid every week from his parents, so it's like, yeah, you'd save that and then buy a PlayStation Magazine for an absolutely massive sum of $4.99 a month and get demo discs. And I had a big stack of them, and I used to look forward to that every month. And I was just thinking back, like, I think I found a copy of Demo 1 or something, and I was like firing it up and playing around with the T-Rex thing, thinking I really want to start collecting the demo discs from the magazines. But I sort of looked into it.
That as well, wouldn't it?
It depends which one you got. Because I mean, they all had the T-Rex on, they all had the Manta Ray on, but like depending on when you got your PlayStation, they were different.
Played the shit out of that demo.
Mine was the one with Disney's Hercules on, and I remember that because my mum used to wait until I went to bed at night and then take the PlayStation out, set it up, and play Disney's Hercules all night. But yeah, I did nearly go into collecting the demo discs, but I just I kind of thought it's a rabbit hole I don't really want to go down, especially seeing as like the later ones are more expensive and tend to have repeated games on it as well. And from someone who just wants to play them's perspective, it's not really worth it. So I didn't end up doing it, but I can see why people do, because that was like my life back then.
Shush. Shush.
Someone's disagreeing with that. Yeah. They're agreeing that PlayStation 1 demo discs are far too expensive. There we go. Question from It's Much More. What made you buy PlayStation 1, Saturn, or Nintendo? Was it TV ads, magazines, word of mouth, playing on mates' consoles? For me, I bought a PlayStation 1 at the time, and it was because I played a friend of mine's. And I thought, well, I was in a position at the time where I could actually afford to buy one. It was like, oh, great, I could do that. So, but I wasn't particularly aware of the other two. They probably would have been out at the same. Saturn certainly would have been out. I think maybe even the N64 might have been out. Well, I remember doing that. Guys, Sean, did you pick any of these up straight away, or?
Pretty much a PS1, but I've never really heard about it through TV ads or much like that, magazines. I've never heard of the Saturn at the time, and I didn't know anything about the N64. The PS1, actually, at the time, I lived next door to a Curry's, and found it in there. Sorry, a Comet, not a Curry's, Comet. And I went in there regular. At the time as well, they were selling Philips CDIs, and I remember, looking at them and thinking, "Wow, look at that! Look at graphics on that." And then all of a sudden, PS1 appeared, and I'm like, well, what sorcery is this? Like, sure, this can't be right. We can't do all this, can we? And from that moment, I need one of these. Definitely want one of these. Price wise, I can't remember what they will have been cheaper than Philips CDI, won't they? I can't remember the release prices, but yeah, that's certainly what made me look into getting one. And then it wasn't long after I did purchase one, and that was it. And again, like I say, even months down the line, I never really even looked at another console. Just PS1.
Yeah.
Especially when people, started being able to chip them. There were certainly no looking at any other consoles then. But,
What
route you going on, James? Did you was any of these particularly influential on your decision to buy one at the time, or?
Sega was really, really heavily influential on me because I had the Mega Drive. And I was getting the magazines probably every other month, like the Sega Mega Drive magazines, Sega Power, and a couple of the other ones. And so I was sort of reading up on the Saturn and the 32X because they sort of came out. There wasn't much time, about 3-4 months after each other. So I was sort of, I didn't know which one to get really until my sort of dad made up my mind for me. He was saying, look, this is going to be a proper based 32-bit console, so it's going to be better. Instead of this one that you still need your, as I said, on your desert island, I wasn't that great of a reader, so my dad would read some of the paragraphs for me and that. So he was telling me which one to go for. So I ended up with the Sega Saturn, which I'm so happy that I got because I absolutely love that system. It's one of my favourite. It's probably my top 3 system of all time. I absolutely love that thing. Some great games on it. Like, graphics look like shit, but the gameplay was brilliant.
What about yourself, Pete? Before we move on to some other points.
I think I've told the story before, but everybody I knew, because we came into it late because we weren't sort of a very rich family growing up. My dad had a lot of debts and stuff, so it was like well after the N64 came out, and like all my friends had PlayStations. One friend had an N64, and I wanted the Saturn. We finally had the money to get me a console for Christmas, and I wanted the Saturn because one of my cousins had it, and I thought it was cool, and I loved Sega. And I was adamant, dead set, that I was going to get the Saturn. And my mum sort of gradually, in the months coming up to Christmas, my mum gradually talked me out of it because all my friends had PlayStations. And it would be more worthwhile to get a PlayStation. You can trade games with your friends and stuff like that. So I ended up getting a PlayStation that way. But it really, I mean, to this day, it's my favorite console of all time, the PS1. I mean, coming up to just before Christmas, my mum saw a very, very, very cheap Atari Jaguar and tried to change my mind again. But kind of
a lucky escape.
If I could go back in time, I'd say, yeah, just take the Jaguar.
We need a TARDIS again. We need that TARDIS. Martin, you said here.
Don't play it. Just put it away. It's not going to be very good. Just put it away, but take it. And in like a year or so, the PlayStation will drop in price to like 69 quid, and you can just get one then. Because it did not long after we got it. But yeah, I stuck to my guns, and I got the PS1, and yeah, just such a good machine. Really, it is my favorite machine of all time. I do love the Saturn. I tolerate the N64, but
vaguely.
Yeah, but yeah, the PS1 is just perfect. From the noise it makes when you start it up to like the kind of grimy graphics. I love those pixelated textures and stuff. I really wish more games had come out like that today.
It's interesting that none of us said the N64. Yeah. But, go on, James. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm glad I'm not the only one that likes them sort of chunky pixels.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the PlayStation and the Saturn games just look awesome.
It's the low-res textures, the really low-res textures, like on Metal Gear Solid. It was somehow like super cinematic, but everybody looked like, all their eyes were just squares. Everybody looked like
Lego men.
Yeah. And I just love that look. And it's like the same with like stuff like the Resident Evil series, like the pre-rendered backgrounds and like all the tank controls and the stupid voice acting and stuff like that. Going back to when we were talking about Shenmue earlier, the really bad voice acting in a lot of games makes it for me. And I love that. I just love that era of gaming in general. And I'd love to more like throwbacks to it, because there's loads of throwbacks to like 8-bit, even though all these so-called 8-bit like games that come out would never run on an 8-bit system. But you don't get much throwback to 32-bit.
No, you don't. You're absolutely right with that. You don't. Which is strange, really, because it was a very, very important part. Thanks for that question, James. I'm going to whiz through some of these comments because I'm quite far behind with these and where people may be posting stuff I'm not reading. Dylan says the Saturn is better UK. That was Video Game Pirate said that. Will come back to that in a second. Can you did games and toys? I'd say that this generation is arguably the most important for learning how to do 3, but it holds up the worst on the grounds. Being a learning generation with controls, if you get a 16-bit, it holds up. I would agree with that. And again, I think that may have come down to some of the issues that they had with the Saturn, the way it was set up. It was made incredibly difficult to program for. And I know a lot of developers really did struggle with it. Ink Norther says Nintendo won company in the console wars, companies that Microsoft cannot afford to buy, given the cash reserves Nintendo have. Martin, that UK Gamer, the N64 was last released, but was the best one. If we got the Japanese library, Saturn would have been much better. I've always held that opinion myself, but some people think that's maybe been a little bit harsh on what we got over here. Anybody with experience of Saturn want to comment on that at all? James, first.
I personally like the 3D games that came from, that came out on the Saturn. I mean, I didn't have much experience with the Japanese the Japanese collection until now with the pseudo cart. But, I mean, getting some of those 2D games now from the Saturn is just awesome. I mean, some of them are almost arcade perfect, like some of the Capcom fighting games, Street Fighter First, X-Men. Unbelievable game graphically, and playability is just off the roof. It's just awesome game. So, but yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, if Saturn got some of them Japanese games and that, it would have been a different beast in the West.
I've always been under the impression that the Japanese stuff was far better, and obviously I thought, well, because I was never particularly impressed with the Saturn. I always slag it off. I used to slag it off an awful lot now. I try and give it a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. So that's what I tried to do. But I always held that belief that everyone favoured the Japanese games, the shooters particularly, and I thought, well, I'm not going to go bothering collecting the entire or even just games from Japan. But some people, oh no, the UK stuff is pretty good as well. It's common held belief that the Japanese stuff was better. So I don't know. It's one of those really. I'm not playing the Japanese games. I know it's a shame saying Nath can't be with us tonight because I know he's sort of quite big on the shooter side of the stuff on the Saturn. So so it's a shame he can't be with that one.
I got Nath actually to get me into the Japanese collection actually. So it's a shame he's not here today. Yeah, because I sort of had quite a lot of conversations with him, and it was Dylan that recommended him a site called Resurrection Games that do like sort of reproduction games. We've been getting some of my Japanese collection from. So yeah, I've got Nate and Dylan to thank for the Japanese collection stuff.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it? I know Eddie collects quite a few Saturn Japanese stuff as well. So
yeah, it does.
On the whole, they tend to be quite a bit cheaper to buy, and because a lot of the games on the Saturn are more arcadey games where you don't really need to read much, they are well worth just getting the Japanese versions and just fumbling your way through the menu screens.
That's what I've been doing. What's that say? I don't know. Just click that one.
Just press one until you can play. It's fine. But yeah, the way the Saturn was made, I believe, is it was intended to be a 2D console, and then Sony came along and they were kind of like, oh shit. So stuff like 2D fighters, especially and 2D shooters, the structure of the way it was made is like so much closer to the arcade machines than any other console really of the time. So that's why they were better, especially like the Capcom fighting games. Just absolutely almost arcade perfect. But a lot of those like either didn't come out over here or have really kept the value, so you just can't get hold of them anywhere. But yeah, if you're into shooters and fighters especially, and light gun shooters as well, because we've got the old Sega light gun shooters, awesome. It is a console for you, and I could see why it would be a favourite. It's just I liked a bit more meat to my games at the time. I think I preferred stuff like Tomb Raider, which actually did come out on Saturn first.
It is. People forget that.
Yeah, but
it's quite an ugly game on the Saturn though.
It's quite an ugly game anyway.
yeah, but I mean, if you compared the both back in the day, you could see the limitations of the Saturn with the PlayStation with just that one game.
Playing stuff like I think it's Alien Trilogy and stuff like that. It's because of the way I was supposed to just do 2D graphics, they had to sort of layer things up to make it look 3D, and it's things like they couldn't do transparency and stuff like that. So if you play like the Saturn version of Alien Trilogy, all the windows are just like a block color and you can't see through them. Things like that. It's just
that is a myth though. Saturn can do transparency very well in the right hands. If you look at something like Burning Rangers, not the greatest game, but the transparency in that is brilliant.
They had to do it in like a checkerboard effect on like instead of doing for like an actual transparent texture. Apparently, from what I've read anyway, they had to do like one block of actual color, one block of nothing, and make it look like when you're further away it looks more transparent. But I don't know. It's just I tend to read things and then forget half of it, so I could be wrong.
No, I agree. I agree with the Saturn being transparent. Cause every time I look at it, I look straight past it and see something else.
Come on.
Yeah. 37 Retro
You
said,
will like the Saturn.
I will.
You will like the Saturn at the end of this stream.
Be hammered into me, I'm sure. I had all three and enjoyed them all, but to this day I dislike the PlayStation 1 D-pad. Was it made that way, split because some company had the patent for it or something? Anybody know anything about that?
I haven't heard of that, but I know what it means about the D-pad being split.
Basically,
I love the PS1 D-pad.
Yeah, I do.
It's got to the point now where I played that much like Street Fighter with the PS1 D-pad that I can't play it on anything else. I just cannot do the moves on it. It's I used to get blisters on my thumbs from playing the Street Fighter on the PlayStation pad. So maybe it wasn't a good pad after all, but it's just I've always loved it.
Mm. Okay. Let's just try and catch up with some of these bits and pieces here. Dylan said the PlayStation's success was just so much down to their slick marketing as it was the failures of Nintendo and Sega. Yeah, we touched on that a little bit.
I'm going to say
that's probably
they were clever in that they kind of made it more of an adult console, didn't they? You know, rather than a kid's toy, it was more aimed at adults, and obviously more of the games were aimed.
They copied Sega's marketing from the early 90s, didn't they, basically? And made it cool and for you know, as you said, more adult kids. And that. And obviously with some of the game franchise, which is still going today, like the Metal Gear Solid, you know, it was they were a lot more sophisticated way of playing games as well. A lot more in depth. So yeah, very clever.
Yeah.
Martin got his N64 from Tandy's. We had a Tandy's in our town centre. There was Tandy, there was an Intersport, and there was a toy shop. It's now a pub. It's now Witherspoon. But that's going back a bit.
Just a bit.
It does a bit, yeah. Dangster joined us and says anyone who has a Saturn is better. Says the Saturn is better. He's just trying to be uber trendy nostalgia mark, and nobody bought it compared to PlayStation, whereas the Power library was not better than PlayStation 1 library. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with him a little bit there.
I always say that, actually. It's you know, people are going about the Dreamcast being amazing as well. It's like, yeah, it was amazing, and I have one. If it was that amazing, if you thought it was that amazing, why didn't more people buy it? Sort of thing, you know. It wouldn't have died.
Reputation was shit at that point.
It was.
No one wanted to produce games for it. It was it tarnished at that point.
And that probably was the reason why the Dreamcast didn't do particularly well either. Although a lot of people, you know, who like the Dreamcast, but that's something else. N64 was a kiddie console. Only thing I played on was GoldenEye and Mario Kart. I think that's what most people bought an N64 for, if they were honest about it. The multiplayer stuff like that.
Perfect Dark and Mario Kart for me, so pretty much the same.
Yeah. PlayStation was the first console used 16 plus. Dylan had a cool factor, no console before. Let's have a look. Dylan, both the Sega and Nintendo dropped the ball in the big way. This and Sony's maverick approach to marketing was what made them the force they are today. It's exactly what we said earlier, wasn't it? I mean, it's very much the case from that one. All three had their great games. PS1 Final Fantasy 7, Wipeout 2097, Saturn Virtual Fighter 2, Fighters Mega Mix, Exhumed, Sega Rally, N64, GoldenEye, best era for games in my opinion.
Just going back to adverts, can you remember that PlayStation advert? I think it was for PS1. It was like, it was a girl, and she had like a funny shaped head.
Yeah.
Can you remember?
Yeah, the big eyes, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's almost like an alien, wasn't she?
I don't remember that.
What it about?
I have no idea.
There was one
Big
as well.
Games and Toys agrees with you on that one, yeah. The weird jock lass with the googly eyes.
That's it.
There was one as well where it was going through loads of different people all talking about like what it's like to play it. And there was one of them was like this little boy with like the massive biggest eyes in the world who stared at the screen. I think he was Scottish as well. And he just said something like Conquered Worlds and like his weird Scottish accent. And that always stuck with me because he was just mental.
The only commercial I remember for the Saturn was the woman with the bald head, and she got the rings around her head.
Can't remember that.
I don't remember that at all.
That's all I can remember of it. I think it was a shit advert, but
I remember there were some weird adverts. I remember thinking you're trying to sell consoles here. I've got no idea what you were talking about.
I remember the print advert. The one that always sticks out to me for a magazine advert was the Wipeout one with Sarah Cox in it shooting up or something. That's Sarah Cox.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they had the Wipeout. It had Sarah Cox, the TV presenter, radio presenter, isn't she? And
we should have got her on.
Yeah, maybe.
Can we get her on at short notice? Anybody know who's the older?
But yeah, it's her and this guy just on a chair, like sort of like looking as if they've like overdosed and stuff. But obviously, what they have been doing is playing Wipeout, and that's always stuck with me. It's like that kind of sort of advertising towards older people, I think.
Didn't she go out with Keith and the Prodigy for a while?
Possibly.
Didn't they do some music for Wipeout?
They
They're
did.
probably shooting up while doing the wrong music.
Allegedly,
Actually,
lawyers might be
Wipeout.
watching.
I think Firestarter was on Wipeout 2097. Actually, it definitely was on Wipeout 64.
Yeah, I'm sure she dated Keith for a while. I'm sure
How does that sound? Yeah, it sounds brilliant.
Vasavi, Freshman's victory last night. Says my son got Saturn for Christmas and loved it. Put many hours into Sega Rally. Spent his money on renting a PlayStation from the video shop nearly every weekend. Well, we need to buy one. I don't understand that. 2 days later, take it back. He's back again. We've got it ready for you. Sold it back. I don't understand that one. Question from the Northerner: what are your favourite games from each console? It could be here all night on that one. Cool. Well, I mean, Saturn for me, Sega Rally, 'cause I like my racing games. PlayStation 1, I probably would go for ISS Pro Evolution because I probably spent so much time playing that. N64, probably Mario 64. I quite enjoy playing that. GoldenEye will push it a close second, but that's purely for the single player. I mentioned before I do like the single player on that. James?
Yeah, possibly Sega Rally for me for the Saturn. N64 WCW first NWO Revenge. Actually put loads of hours in that. And for PlayStation International Track and Field, just for the amount of times me, my brother, and my dad spent hours and hours into that game.
Sean?
Saturn wise, I think I've only played Sega Rally on that system anyway. Nintendo 64, I'm afraid to say I don't think I've played any. I might have fired one up at some point to just test the game out.
We're going to get Sean an N64, folks. We're going to get him one.
Yeah. PlayStation, it has to be Resident Evil for me.
I was going to say Resident Evil 2 probably would be
the obvious one, but yeah.
And Pete?
For the N64, it's definitely Perfect Dark. It's the closest thing to an actual good game on the N64 that I can think of. I mean, there's good multiplayer games, but I mean, I tend to play on my own most, and Perfect Dark is a shooter that still holds up today, so it has to be Perfect Dark. On the Saturn, it's hard because I only actually got my first Saturn a couple of years back. I think about 4 or 5 years back now, actually. I really love Fighters Megamix. It's one of my favourite fighting games of all time. I love Virtua Cop from Virtua Cop 2, House of the Dead. And so I'd probably have to go to something like one of those. And then on the PlayStation, there's just too much to think about, really. There's Silent Hill, the first one, and Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver are two of my favourite games of all time, so it'd probably have to go to one of those two. But, I mean, there's the Tomb Raider series, there's Metal Gear Solid, there's, like, the Wipeout series, Roll Cage, Derby. It's amazing for... I mean, there's Resident Evils as well. It's such an amazing, system for fighting games. There's Street Fighter EX plus Alpha, that's amazing, Bloody Raw. For light gun shooters, for... all sorts, it's just an amazing survival horror games. It's just an amazing system for that much. It's so hard to pick, but it probably would come down to probably either Soul Reaver or Silent Hill.
I mean, it's probably the amount of games you got for each system. We're just trying to pick one each there. I mean, we could have probably gone for pick 3 or 4 each probably. But I'll answer your question anyway, Paul. Guys, I'm really sorry. I'm so far beyond the comments. I just need to try and catch up a little bit. This one was posted at 8:41. Hopefully, they're still here. They're still 9 o'clock. But we're getting into the subject, so that's what we're here for, to discuss what we're talking about. Some people say the Saturn is crap at 3D with Virtua Fighter 2 high resolution. Exhumed Duke Nukem good too. Some 2D fighters are better on the Saturn. Due to the extra memory, reduced loading times, best controller ever. Yep, I certainly with that one.
Yeah, I'll go with that. That controller was just so comfortable. It's just a shame that obviously where PlayStation sort of evolved, it had the analog sticks and that sort of stuff. Where the Saturn, I mean, I know they had one with the 3D Saturn controller, but I think it missed the trick with the without the analog sticks.
Mm. Yeah,
And the extra buttons as well.
I have my problem with the analog sticks anyway. That's well known. So it's just, I like Saturn controller was great. I really like that. Really did like it.
Playing fighting games, it's
Yeah.
absolute best controller ever.
Just want to answer Al's question here. If you've not seen Al's latest video about he's playing Premier Manager 99, is it, or something on the PlayStation 1 at the moment. He's not coming on until he stops playing his goalkeeper at left back. Anybody watched his latest video yesterday? He played about 4 games with one of his goalkeepers playing in defence and wonder why he wasn't winning any games. So, no, until you improve and stop letting the computer make all the decisions, Al, and manage the team yourself, you're not coming on to talk about that.
I did a similar thing when I was younger, knowing nothing about football. I was playing like some kind of football game, and I'd cheated and got all the money. And I just bought all the top-rated players. I bought like enough for a team of all the top-rated players in the game, and then like wondered why like I couldn't actually win a game with like answering goal or something.
There we go. Mrs. Bears backed me up because we watched that yesterday. I was like, he's got a goalkeeper playing defence. What's he doing? Anyway, that's the subject from the podcast. Worked at Electronic Boutique Store at the time of the launch of PlayStation 1 Saturn. It was great times. The leap in graphical fidelity was massive. It was the first time we had arcade type games in the home. Yeah, I think Dylan's spot on with that. The shooters are crazy prices, some we bought cheap, but on the whole there is 100+ region. I think we're talking about the Japanese stuff there. Sony including texture smoothing the PlayStation 1. All the games will be much more playable also today. Yeah, I suppose, would they have known that at the time, that there was going to be this demand for games 25 years later?
And I played them on a PS3. They look great.
There's one of the codes for RetroArch for emulating on the PC. Really like smooths out all the textures, adds widescreen, puts it into like 1080p, and I can't remember what the effect was called, where the texture would sort of warp while you were playing it, like. You know, like you're supposed to have a straight line and it looked like it was kinked and stuff. It happened in a lot of PS1 games, but they'd sorted that out as well. And, you know, they run so smooth and amazing, like they look so great, actually. So I'm inclined to agree. But yeah.
I must be honest with you, at the time, it just doesn't, things like that do not register with me whatsoever. And then people bring up in conversation, think, oh, could they have done that slightly differently? But who would have thought back in the 80s, me and Sean, making the tape games, that people want to play them 20, 30 years later?
Yeah.
You're not going to think about, okay, you could push the machine as far as you could possibly go, but by the time we got to 1995, 1998, when you're going to put in these methods that will make sure that these games are, not say future-proof, but they look an awful lot better in, they don't look so bad 20 years later than they do now. I don't know. Yeah. It's a strange one. House did was a little rough on the Saturn, but I still enjoyed it. Virtual Cop 2 was the best all-rounder. I love Virtual Cop on the Saturn.
House of the Dead is a ugly game on the Saturn, but it plays great. I mean, it was rushed as well. It was one of the last games to come out for the system, and it was really rushed, but it plays awesome.
Martin says, I didn't know Tomb Raider was on the Saturn until I got mine about 2 years ago, and didn't know until it was on it first until last year sometime. I think it's a conception most people come across. They think because it's so associated with PlayStation that they don't actually realise it came out on the Saturn first. I think it's very much ignored. Can you dig games and toys get blisters playing Tomb Raider on the PlayStation 1 for other reasons? Obviously, after those 3D polygons was, that's it. Another question from James. It's much for what did you do with your previous console/home computer when you got your 5th gen console? Sell it, keep it, pass it on to a friend / family member. Well, when I got my PlayStation 1, I had my Amiga and my Mega Drive still. The Amiga disappeared down the tip, I think, and I ended up trading the Mega Drive in for a couple of PlayStation 1 games eventually.
What games were they?
Do I have to tell you?
Yeah, you
Smackdown on the PlayStation 1 and this other game.
What was the other game?
Spice World. Everyone's fed up hearing that story. Honestly, there were minutes of gameplay in that, mate. Minutes, I tell you. 5 minutes if it was that.
You never got them 5 minutes back, have you, mate?
I got 5 minutes worth out of it, mate. I'll give you that, but for completely different reasons. Anyway, I mean, yes. So I kept hold of my stuff. Did either of you guys move your previous consoles on, or did you keep hold of them, or?
I think I sold my Mega Drive to my sister, and I regretted it for a long time. Because it was Mega Drive 2, so it was obviously the best one as well. Waiting for us to react to that one.
it?
waiting for us to
Mega
react.
Drive to your sister.
I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing.
But no, I really wish I kept that Mega Drive because I had some really good games for it as well. But you know, I'm getting them back, and I've got 2 Mega Drives now, so I did get it back. We found one of them next to a bin, so. Well, my wife actually, she found it. It was like in a pile of rubbish waiting to be taken into the rubbish chute when we moved, when we lived in the flat, and we managed to get it and like clean it up, and it works. And I've only recently found out it's a Chinese PAL Asian one that's like almost region free. It plays the Japanese games and everything. So yeah, that's a cool find.
One person's rubbish is another person's treasure.
Yeah, exactly.
That must be a Hong Kong Mega Drive.
Yeah, it's the one with the purple trim on it. Yeah. But yeah, my sister ended up with my Mega Drive 2, and I don't know where it went. And I don't know. I think my mum just spring cleaned the Amiga away. Like she did with a lot of things back then.
Sean, did you do anything like that?
No, actually, before the PlayStation, if my memory served me right, I just had a PC. Prior to that, I know I had a Master System, but that was probably long gone before. But I had a PC because obviously I used to like my point and click adventures. That was one of the main reasons I got this PC. But the PC actually stayed with us for a while, getting the PS1. I honestly can't remember at what point it departed or just died. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it kind of run in conjunction with PS1. Did my PC. Like I say, I used to love my point and click, so when I fancied a game on one of them, I'd do that and swap between them. It was nice to see Broken Sword come to PlayStation, actually, a good, good point and click adventure. Yeah.
And James?
I gave my Mega Drive to my little cousin with all the games as well, which was about, I don't know, about 40 odd games at that point. 30, 40 games. Stupid, really. But I did, once I think he got a PlayStation for Christmas at one point, so I got the Mega Drive back, but there wasn't as many games as I gave him. He obviously sold quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
For PlayStation 1 games. But yeah, I got the Mega Drive back, and that lasted about 2 years before it broke down, and I got a Mega Drive 2.
Oh, the inferior model.
I don't like the Mega Drive 2.
Yeah, it's another subject. That's not the trigger word that is over here, I tell you. Quick update on Sarah Cox from Dylan. I'm not sure how recent this is, but apparently she's ODing with blood coming out of her nose. We call an ambulance, please? Right, I know he's got so much information, inside information. Retro M88, Liam, hope you're still here. That was about 10 minutes ago.
Graham, thank you again, mate.
Yeah, that's good. So we mentioned it earlier. Liam sent the Shenmue games. Thank you very much for that. Feed me chickens here as well.
Loser.
Oh, come on. Rubbing it in, kicking the poor man while he's down. Dear, oh dear. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Pathetic.
Oh, dear. Well, yeah, anyway. I'm not going to get into all of that. The wrong time for it. But if you know what I'm talking about, go and have a look on my channel and look at the race night 2 from last night. I'm saying nothing else. A question for you, Sean, from Dylan. Would you play on an N64 that had Call of Duty?
Yeah, quite possibly. Or any of those kind of first-person show. I know, well, GoldenEye was a first-person show, wasn't it? But Medal of Honor, was that released on 64?
No,
it was after that.
Medal of
Honor was PlayStation 1.
Yeah, so Yeah,
64 wasn't really good for FPSs because of the weird controls.
I like the controller though.
Nah.
I was a fan. I actually liked the N64 controller. I thought it was brilliant.
No, yeah, I had to rectify
Even
it with
Chicken
this.
does as well, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
I had to rectify it with this.
Yeah, I remember the Desert Island.
Let me
You and
just
Chicken.
bring that up, mate. There we go. Go on, show us that again, Pete. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't do with the controller. I had to pick up one of these.
Oh, is that the brawler pad?
Yeah. In fact, I'm looking at getting the Dreamcast one for Christmas because I'm not keen on the Dreamcast controller either.
Oh, yeah, I recommend that.
Yeah. Really nice
There we
controller.
I've not seen that
Yeah, I
one before.
recommend getting the
No,
Dreamcast
it's like
one.
an
That
Xbox
controller
controller.
is brilliant.
They've done a Mega Drive one as well, but I kind of feel like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Actually, I would get the Mega Drive because it works on the Saturn as well. It's got two
Really?
ports. Yeah,
Oh, right.
that's the control I use. So I've got them both connected to the Mega Drive and the Saturn because they're right next to each other. My two
Yeah.
consoles. So
Again, though, it's like I don't think the Saturn controller is particularly broken either. I quite like that. I like the smaller Saturn controller anyway. I'm not keen on the bigger one. So,
wait until you hold it, though.
that's
Wait
what
until you hold it. Trust me. Go and watch my review.
Yeah, they all say
Brawler
that.
pad
Yeah.
for the Saturn.
So to conclude, the PlayStation 1 had the best libraries. Nobody picked the same game. Only thing decent on Saturn was Sega Rally. Well, that's just our opinion, Dana. I mean, it's we're just picking one each here. I mean, I'm sure if we had more time to sit down and discuss each system in more detail, we'll be able to give you maybe a bit more of an overview on that one. But from that, yeah, you can conclude that the only thing we think was any good on Sega Rally was on Saturn was Sega Rally, probably. But it's probably the only game that someone was actually played in any depth on there. So, what would it take for Sean to say something good about the N64?
Well, I don't want to get the perception of the N64. I don't hate the system or anything like that. I've no dislike for it. It just passed me by. Like I say, I had the PS1 right up to
He
the
was very
Dreamcast.
drunk in that period, okay? So,
if I remember correctly, I probably looked at the N64 as just like what it Dane said, more like a kid's console. So, looking at probably just no, not really my kind of thing. But I mean, I ain't got an hatred for it or anything like that. A dislike for it. I mean, it's like most things Nintendo. I haven't really got anything in my collection Nintendo anymore. I kid people on sometimes about hating Mario and that, but I ain't really got a dislike. It's just that those systems really weren't my thing at the time. Like I say, I just kind of like blinkered in a way really to PlayStation. Up to the Dreamcast anyway, at least.
I mean, Paul's mentioned some good games on the N64. We did not choose Ocarina or Majora. Well, that's because I've never played them. Or I played Ocarina, and I just couldn't get into it. I did try. God, I tried. God is my witness. I did try. But
solid 7 out of 10 game.
Majora, yeah, I just haven't played. Yeah.
Ocarina of Time's good. It's just really overrated, and Majora's Mask is not my cup of tea.
Big Game also the best game in all three is Command and Conquer. Retro Dome Music says Tekken 3 on the PlayStation 1 is impressive. We've got a question. Only about 15 minutes ago, so we're still quite beyond. What series started that generation that is still going the best? Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, etc. Oh, that's a good one.
So can you count Tomb Raider as still going because it's had like 2 reboots? So,
well, it's still going, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not the same series because there's like the first series finished at Angel of Darkness when that just about killed the franchise. And then it rebooted with Legend and Anniversary and Underworld, and then it rebooted again with Lara Croft Destroys the World.
But you could apply the same thing to Mario and.
I think the strong continuity of the Mario games is still going. That complex storyline.
Yeah. Zelda as well. I mean, obviously, people rave about Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
That's
a
Gran
Crash.
Turismo.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Well, that's a,
Gran
yeah,
Turismo,
that's
yeah.
going. Yeah.
I mean,
Metal Gear,
Metal
Metal
Gear.
Gear Solid.
That
Crash.
didn't really start
Metal
on the
Gear?
PlayStation, though. Metal Gear. It's
It was
It
NES,
did,
wasn't
did
it,
it?
originally?
it started on the
PS1
MSX.
Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Did it?
The first one was on the MSX and the NES.
That's right. It goes way back. Crash series, Crash Bandicoot games.
Crash Bandicoot, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few still going. I mean, obviously, there's varying standards of quality for each particular game. Pete said to me, it's been rebooted a couple of times. Gran Turismo is still very much the heart of it, the racing game. I'm not sure whether it's still as in depth as it was with all the driving licenses, etc. when it first came out. It wasn't really
Resident Evil's still going, but it's not the series it used to be. I mean, it's the sort of coming up in quality again now. But I mean, the only one I really didn't like was I think 0 and 5, but they sort of 6 especially got a really, really bad reaction. So I don't know about that.
I always ask people about 6. And I'm like, why do people hate 6 so much? But
Actually,
half of it was really good.
there you go. Yeah.
I like the Leon section anyway.
Yeah, and
that was
any bits with actual zombies were really good. It was the bits where you're fighting big rubbery monsters and stuff. It's
I'm going to jump to this question here because I had a question from Feed Me Chicken about how we hold an N64 controller. Now,
I've got to see this.
Luckily, we have one available. I'm going to put myself on big screen and look like a big.
Do you always
big
have that
Egypt.
controller there in case you get?
Yes, in case anybody asks me the question. It's here, ready, and waiting to go. Okay, so I'm going to put myself on big screen like an Aegis, so you can all see, and you can all laugh at me. Right, so when I got the N64 controller, which is this thing here, and it's an official one, when I first started playing it, for some reason, I always hold it with the 2 prongs outside here, okay?
Yeah.
No one's laughing, that's a good start, right? So when it comes to using like the analog stick, I was like, well, hang on, I'm going to try and do all this with my fingers up here, and it's bloody impossible. So the laughing started, there we go, so we're on the way going. Now, when I did my Desert Island games with Chicken, obviously it's an audio broadcast when it goes out, but we talk about, we've got a video, we can see each other. And he said, no, you hold it like that. So it's much easier to do that. I'm thinking, well, hang on a second, I'm still going to get around there and put my fingers on that. But yeah, so he said the best way is to hold it like that.
That's still wrong.
Muggins here holds it like this.
No, you want your left hand on the analog stick. That's
right, that one there.
That's the one.
Okay. So how do I reach the left shoulder button then?
You very rarely.
A lot of games you don't need to anyway.
Well, what the fuck's it there for then? It's there for a reason.
It's there for Mortal Kombat.
Well, I'm never going to play Mortal Kombat anyway. So there we go. That's the story behind Retro Bear and the N64 controller. Yeah, Nintendo don't put stuff on there if you're meant to use it. So you confuse the hell out of me. So that's what it is. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Feed Me Chicken.
It just don't look right though, holding it on the analog part and the buttons.
Yeah, I agree.
How you originally held it looks right.
Yeah. That's it. That's exactly what I meant by it. As soon as I pick it up, it's a controller. I'm going to hold it there, right?
That's I
think
held it.
What was quite ingenious about that controller was it gave you the choice. So if you had big, massive hands, like old Feed Me Chicken with them massive arms of his, he could have done it, couldn't he? Easily. If you got the smaller hands, so moving your hand to that middle part, it was brilliant by Nintendo. Because obviously all the people in Japan have got like small hands, haven't they? So it was catering for the people in Japan. So it gave you little sections. I thought it was ingenious.
Yeah, I agree with Stuart. He just dropped the controller in the bin. It's the worst thing ever. They should never have come out with it.
I like the controller. I'm with Feed Me Chicken on that one. My best of enemy. I'm with him on that one.
You agree with him on that one, blimey. There's a turn off the book. You slagged him off a minute ago.
He's still a loser, but
Saturn cases were crap. The later ones are okay. The more Mega Drive style ones, the N64 ones were still the worst games in the cardboard box. Yep. I completely agree.
I must admit, the Saturn cases are shit, but I like them.
It's not the
especially the
cardboard
power ones.
It's not the cardboard bit that bothers me. Because everyone complains about the cardboard bits getting creased and stuff. That's not what bothers me. It's the fact that the teeth on the inside, a slight gust of wind and they're off. And just about every Saturn game I've ever bought has just been rattling around inside the box because there's nothing to hold it in place.
Yeah.
Just give it a blow. Oh, fuck, it's broken. Shit. Fuck
If
it.
it's saying that you do that to a PlayStation 1 or a Dreamcast case and it just shatters. So.
Yeah.
Sega Zombies with us. Well, he was with us 15 minutes ago. Sorry, Scott, I didn't. I was way beyond with the comments. Dana wants to know who my favourite Spice Girl was. No answer to that one, mate. There we go. And she still is.
She got her
she
heels
still
out,
is.
so, you know, she got
Yeah,
her front
she-
lumps out, so, you know, she got the front.
Well, you may have different opinions on that one, mate. That's a completely different to liking it, but there we go. Let's have a look. Oh, Paul Retrobates here as well. Love the Amiga, held on to it as long as possible, finally jumping on the PlayStation 1. I think that's probably much my route via the Mega Drive briefly. Seeing the demo, one CD that came to PlayStation was amazing, such a hoodoo, especially the Wipeout demo. Yeah, it blew a few people away, so we did mention that earlier on about obviously how rare those things becoming defined to collect them. Scott obviously is going to back the Sega Saturn. Well, there we go. Again, it's one of those. 8-bit Rach is here as well, so this will be new tech to her as well. But thanks for popping along, Rach. It's good to see you. Liam had my Saturn well before the PlayStation 1 and loved both. Again, I don't know many people who picked the Saturn up at launch. I found it out with a few of these Desert Island games. I think Sean's doing a tasting session at the moment, isn't he? He's keeping handing drinks from the right.
I literally was the only sad bastard who had a Saturn at my school.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody who had one. It's only when I started collecting stuff that I realised they were a thing. I never knew anybody with one. I never heard of anybody having one. It's a very, very strange one. Anybody watch Games Master? Is that the new series that started? Because I don't know if it's a new one, aren't they?
I think it was premiering the same time as this, actually. So we've gone head to head with Games Master tonight.
Yes,
We'll win that.
And we've won. Yes.
Is that because they're actually premiering it on YouTube as well? So it's actually starting at 8 at exactly the same time as us. Well,
that's the reason we got against head to head to it is because they refused my application for being the new host of Games Master. But there we go. I'd have quite enjoyed doing that. No, I wouldn't have. There we James Basabi, not a fan of the original Dreamcast controller.
You know what the worst thing about it? The worst thing about it is the wires on the bottom. That is honestly the worst thing
was
about
awful.
it. Yeah, doesn't make sense at all.
Scott's the average game.
Could have easily had it at the top, couldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, I know they had the ports for the memory cards and stuff, but I don't know. It's like you have a certain length of cable, and because it's at the bottom of the controller, you lose about 4 inches of that cable because of that. And I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Martin says, I don't get how people struggle to use an N64 controller. I've just demonstrated that. I appreciate your comment. It was about 7 minutes ago, but we could see perfectly clear from that.
I tend to struggle to want to use one.
Yeah, there we go. There seems to be something about these people from North Yorkshire not liking the N64.
I'm from South Yorkshire.
Oh dear. Pedro's here as well from the Bootleggers. Scott points out, it's like Tomb Raider was originally coded on the Sega Saturn. I agree with Dane on this one. I mean, that middle analog stick on the N64 controller, you had to use your penis to control, may have been an issue to some. That was my problem, obviously. That's why I've had so much difficulty with it. Paul Sega Zombie then made another member of the Yorkshire crew who has a 66 in his name that hates the N64. Can't believe it's infected as far as East Anglia. I can go with that. Left hand, yes, if people just talking about my description of the N64 controller. No, I don't. No, I didn't. Other hand round. Well, I can't remember. It's like a few weeks ago now. Ray said it's a bit like an N64 Twister. I agree with that. Not enough. I always say not enough fingers, not enough hands on those controllers. But, that's it. You never need the left shoulder of the D-pad. It was only really used for maps. But why is it on there? Why they put it on there in the first place? If you're not going to use it, it's complete waste of time. I don't know.
Give you choices.
Yeah. Left in the middle, right on the right.
See, for me, it's like I love fighting games, and I can't do a fighting game with an analog stick. So I know there's not many fighting games on the N64, but there is a exclusive version of Mortal Kombat Trilogy. There's stuff like Fighter's Destiny and stuff like that. So I have been known to use it, but it's got to, it doesn't feel right with your hands on each side. It feels more right to be in the middle. So I don't know. I just think it was a swing and a miss from Nintendo. I think.
Yeah.
They threw the shit, but it didn't stick.
We
At
were
least
just
they
talking about.
tried.
Well,
Yeah,
they had
that's
to go, didn't they? They had to go. Got the concept of the case we're talking about. Paul would rather have the dual cases. Nate says no one likes Saturn cases except James.
Fair point.
Sega Zombie likes the Saturn cases. He thinks they're
Yeah,
awesome.
good. Well done, Scott.
UK Video Game Pirate says if you feel like you're damaging the box just getting the cartridge out on an N64, you do have to be careful with them. They are them. Saturn by far the best of 32-bit consoles. And Pedro says the PlayStation was a terrible machine, barring around 32D games. That's interesting. Mind you, he has made a video about that. If you've not seen his new channel, go and have a look at that. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Though, isn't it, really?
What's that, sorry?
It's all down to opinion, though, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, everyone's got their own opinion on it. I mean, of course, we all agreed on everything. It'd be really, really boring, and we've been done about 2 hours ago, wouldn't we? We wouldn't be doing something like this. Joe Gaming Girl is here as well. Hello, Joe. Nice to see you. Everyone loves Russ more than Trevor McDonald. He's a new games master, isn't he? I read that somewhere.
He is, yeah.
Good. Is he short of cash or something? Has it run out? I mean, I was had Patrick Moore doing it all those years ago because he was obviously a bit bonkers and a bit eccentric. He looked like a mad professor. He's ideal for doing it. But Trevor McDonald, the man who used to read what Hugh Edwards not available.
I would have chosen Brian
David,
Boyd.
did he? Old Patrick Moore,
Patrick
because
Moore,
he was always up at night, wasn't he?
Yeah,
With his
that's it, yeah.
nights at Sky or wherever it was.
Sky Night used to go out at like
Sky
half past
at night,
midnight on BBC Two of all things.
He was Dracula.
Pedro says the N64 was also dreadful, barring 10 games. It's very specific here. So 20 games on the PlayStation 1 were all right. 10 games on the N64 were all right. He's obviously got this list somewhere knocking around. The Amiga CD32 was better than the PlayStation 1. You've played on the CD32, haven't you, Sean?
Yeah.
Was it better?
Was it better?
No. I don't know where he's got that from.
He gets it from everywhere. He doesn't. There we go. Where have we got
Cracking machine, right. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good machine, but no.
There we go. There's a fight brewing here. Rach says, suppose it gives you more choice of buttons not to use. Well, yeah, in the case of this piece of cack, yeah, certainly. I don't know. I don't think I've even having played it, I've used all the buttons on it. I think the buttons are in pristine condition.
I think Pedro's a bit like Eric Bishop when he controversy creates cash.
Yeah. Mike, it's a day time he's reused the D-pad and the N64 controller was the ECANS minigame on Pokemon Stadium. And it does come down to opinion. There we go. And we've caught up CD32 amazing controller. I think is he having us on there? Is he?
No, that's nice.
Is it? I thought which is the one which is the terrible controller? Is it the I thought the CD32 got a terrible controller with it.
It's the one which is kind of like upside down, where instead of going across and down, it goes across and up.
That's the one. That's the one. I'm thinking.
I've never actually used one, but it doesn't look bad.
Eddie says Sega Saturn had the coolest boxes. They look all right, but don't look at them for more than 5 seconds, or they fall apart. I'm not quite sure what they were thinking. It's like we can't decide between plastic and cardboard. So they put them, okay, we're going to draw lots now, and no one put the short straw in there, so they had to take the combination of both of them. Okay, we'll make half plastic, half cardboard, and then look what happens. I know those big chunky ones I made towards the end. Because this is where I had a problem going back years when I started collecting the Simpsons DVDs. They changed the box sets halfway through. So the first 6 or 7 or 8 were same. And then they started bringing limited edition ones out, which were smaller, and they didn't fit. So if you're collecting Saturn games, you have all these like cardboard ones and half cardboard, half plastic, and then you can have the rest which can be like great big giant VHS boxes, which is going to look completely different.
No, they were just EA though, weren't they?
Was it?
Yeah, I think they were just EA boxes.
Why would they allow EA to make their own boxes and not keep the uniform?
Probably because they had a similar deal to when they had the Mega Drive. Because obviously they probably threatened them that they would.
That's very true, because obviously they were slightly different, weren't they? Yes, they were.
I thought the EA Mega Drive ones were just so they didn't have to pay Sega for the
licensing.
The licensing to use the cartridges.
They probably did the same thing with the Saturn, didn't they? They probably had some sort of deal like that.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll make our own cases. But Sega did create their own little. They were thinner plastic cases, and they were quite difficult to open. You had to press both sides at the same time to open them up.
Mm.
They were better cases, a bit like a DVD, but they would still just fall out. The middle part of where your CD sits, they would still just fall out. They were still shit. So I've really got a bad habit of swearing on your channel. Sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. We're after the watershed. So that's fine, mate. You carry on. Also, just be yourself, mate. Just be yourself. Pedro has a massive comment when you referred him as like Eric Bischoff. So I think you agree with that one. Yeah.
No, what's their song? What was his song when he came? That's it. I'm back. I'm better than.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, when he comes on Desert Island in a few weeks, we'll have some fun with that. The only thing about N64,
song.
Yeah, I'll have to try and get that. Yeah, play it quietly. The only good thing about N64 was rare. 3 games were better than Nintendo's. That's Sega Zombie. Liam says the N64 controls suits his webbed derby hands. Mentioned that on the podcast. Pedro agrees with Scott. Someone with some bleeding sense on here. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So, we found a game that uses the D-pad. Top Gear Rally uses the D-pad on the N64 to steer. Paul Retrobate says the CD32 is ergonomically nice, just horrific build quality. Something went wrong with the planning on that one, didn't it? It looks really nice, but put together with bits of string and spit, and
it is my absolute number one sort of most wanted console now. At the minute, the CD32, I just cannot justify it.
Atari 5200 controllers, worst controllers they usually broke. Yeah, I know they got a horrible reputation.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Eddie says the Apple Pippin had the worst controller.
Who cares? No one bought one.
No one bought one, did they? D-pad was there for 2D games. The N64 did have some, not many in mind, but it did have some. There are far worse controllers than that one for the N64. They probably
I didn't like the NES, to tell you the truth. The little square one from the original.
I didn't like the Master System one.
It was so pointy, wasn't it? I used to hurt my hands.
Master System one, I didn't.
And you couldn't even break them, were they? Because it was like treading on Lego. So you stamp on it, and fuck!
I agree with Pedro. The paddles are god tier. Absolutely fantastic control of those ones. Really, really did. Joe says the cardboard box games, they were terrible. They fell apart. Retrobates heard of the Pippin. He said, that was terrible as well. Scott somebody says, by the time Microsoft put for Rare, all the talent was gone. A clever ploy to rinse Microsoft of a few million. Well, they went for it, didn't they? They got money to burn, haven't they? It's all to do with that. Kaboom was a classic. Birdroom swear jar. Oh dear. Let's have a look. What we got here? N64 has some good stuff. Mystical Ninja, Killer Instinct Gold, GoldenEye, Turok, Pilot Wings. Clearly the end for cartridge storage. Yeah, some good games there.
I can remember back then my friend having to spend like 60 odd quid on a game at a time, and it's like at the time that was incredibly expensive, and it was mainly just down to the cartridge, like the manufacture process.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah. Joe agrees. Why any cardboard box case everyone ever made? Whoever thought that was a good idea? I don't know. Paul's obviously listening to somebody else. He said all I'm hearing is the Xbox pad is the best by far.
No.
Remember that one? They tend to break quite easily. Could be anything really. So I mean, if the hypothetical situation, if you had to choose between one of these three consoles, which one would you choose as one you can keep? You're going to keep one of them. Which one would you choose, James?
What?
Sega Saturn. I've had all three, enjoyed all three, but the console I always go back to playing is the Sega Saturn. Probably my most played console with the Dreamcast and the Mega Drive. Plus, I am a Sega fanboy.
Well, that's
I'm a Sega fanboy.
Yeah. Well, that's
consoles
it.
Always go back.
Yeah. Pete, what would you do?
PS1 for sure. I'd probably choose the PS1 out of any console in this room, to be fair. Best library, just best memories.
Is that because it's fairly light to carry? So if there's a fire or something, you grab hold of it and...
Yes, I've got the little one as well that Eddie gave me, so I can just stuff that in my pocket, I'm not gonna troll
chucking at people as well. Someone's nicking your house, you chuck the Saturn at them. It's such a big heavy machine.
Yeah.
I can take that.
Sean, what would you do?
I mean, predictably, coming across
N64,
as a Sony fanboy, PS1. But I must say that I really should give, N64 and Saturn a try. Really, give them benefit of doubt. So I mean, there's an whole library of N64 games I've never played, so there might be some gems in there. There might be something for me. Same with Sega Saturn. I'm pretty sure there's some games in there as well that will appeal to me. But it's never really had a chance to give them, really good try out.
I mean, for me, I again, it would be the PlayStation 1 for me, but it.
All ganging up because I'm the guest.
No.
Is that what it is?
Well, I'd like to be slightly different to my two learned friends below, and sort of say it would be a very, very close decision between that and the N64 because I don't know. Although it seems strange, I don't have an affinity to it, but I'd feel I'd be torn between the two. I'd like to take the PlayStation 1. It probably would be my first choice, but if someone was, making me choose between the two, I might be inclined to take it. I don't know. There's some games on there I really enjoy playing, and although I like the PlayStation 1, I'm thinking I don't know. It's a close one for me. I think I might just say the N64 nicks it, but I need to take a different pad. Or have some sort of voice control to go with it. I think that probably is. If on balance, it might might sway my opinion on that at the same time. But
Pete will post you ears.
I'm not. It's the Pokemon one. I'm not posting that to anybody.
Sega Saturn has a few controller variants. Is that right, James?
It is. Yeah, it's got the original. PlayStation. The original Saturn 1 had a slightly thicker, bigger joypad, and the D-pad was pretty shit on that, if I remember correctly. And then obviously you had the smaller variant, which came with the second console, and obviously the 3D pad as well. So there's three different joypads, and obviously the 3D was sort of the basis of what the Dreamcast would become. They are quite similar looking.
You're playing your N64 properly with your hands in the right place on the pad. Yeah, it may do. I wouldn't hold this as a might be a selling point, I suppose. Really, a convincing point. Eddie says the Saturn has called its library the best controller, but the PS1 has a never-ending library. Yeah, I mean there's thousands of games for PlayStation 1. Most of them are, horrible piece of software which lasts about 2 minutes worth, like Spice World. But I mean, I suppose when you look at the library, how many great games are there for you? What's the percentage like against, I know the N64's got a fairly small library of games. The Saturn's got a fairly small library of games. What's the percentage of good games for each system? I mean, if somebody was looking to collect these systems now, just where we are in this hobby of ours, and we've been doing it years because we're sitting here and we've been doing YouTube for God knows 2-3 years plus whatever. People out there have been doing it an awful lot longer than us. If somebody was looking to get into collecting for one of these systems, based obviously we've got our own favourites, but what would we recommend somebody getting into as a way of experiencing the best of this generation? Would we be saying because of the volume of games PlayStation 1, or would we be saying for the quality of the games one of the other systems? Has anybody got an opinion on that?
Well, if you're cheap, go for the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper their games.
Yeah.
If you've got a fair bit of money, go for the Saturn. N64, I don't know, is that that's probably quite an expensive system nowadays, isn't it?
I imagine
the fact, especially if you want the cardboard as well.
Cardboard, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nintendo cardboard. That's a whole phrase attached to it.
But it's then, as you said, Bear, it's all to do with opinions, isn't it?
Mm.
My Saturn collection's much larger than my PS1 collection, but because that's the console I prefer.
Yeah.
So it all depends, really. But if you're cheap, I'm pretty cheap. This is why I'm starting to collect the Japanese games now. I can't understand them, but because they're cheaper than the power ones, bring it on. I'll learn Japanese.
Mike says the 64 is proof that the quality of library games is better than one with lids of terrible games. So yeah, that's one way of looking at it, I suppose, really. But and Martin's after a complete loose N64 cartridge collection, I think.
I feel like I need to cover my back. I feel like I need to cover my back here and say I don't hate the N64. I mainly just say stuff like that to get a reaction. It does pale in comparison to the other two for me in this generation. But I don't hate it. The only console I've ever hated is the Xbox One.
Dave's mentioned the point that you can get a flash cart, you can get these EverDrive things, but I'm just thinking, physical collectors. If you want to get into physically collecting stuff, then would you want to pick games up which are fairly cheap? And as I said, PlayStation 1, if you can find PlayStation 1 games, they are incredibly cheap to pick up. Whereas if you try to find Saturn games, unless you can find them for 50p in a charity shop as somebody did, it's going to be very, very difficult to build a decent collection without forking out a few quid for it. So I don't know.
It's saying that though as well with the flash carts. It's so easy to mod, to soft mod in a Sega Saturn, and it's so easy to soft mod a PlayStation Classic as well. So it's like, if you want to get into it and spend no money at all, then there's the options for all of them.
Dave said N64 is my least plugged in and played system. It was a multiplayer console to me. And I think that is what a lot of people would say. There were so many multiplayer games for it, and Sega Zombie agrees. Back in the day, N64 was about coach co-op and multiplayer, and that's where a lot of people
one thing I really hate about the N64 is its picture quality. Trying to get a decent cable to get a decent quality, out of it is, especially for a PAL unmodded system, it's bloody tough.
It's the Vaseline really smear that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Even on CRT, it looked blurry.
Paul said if you buy more Saturn games and then get them more at 50p, those are the ones I mentioned earlier. 8-bit Rach says I got my PlayStation 1 chip so I could buy snide games. Does that help? Well, yeah, a lot of people were doing that.
Yeah.
Pedro says the cheapest enough is console of all, barring the original Xbox, which is also horrendous. The Danes to 4-player with my mates was class, never plug in to play on my own.
Does Pedro actually like anything?
Yes, he does.
No.
I'm sure there's something he likes. There must be.
He's a likable chap.
Yeah. Sega Zombie PlayStation was the start of shovelware. I suppose that's probably when the phrase came about. I mean, if you go back to the 8-bit stuff, there was a hell of a lot of crap around then. People making games in their bedrooms and early games. Anybody could put a tape game out and some, alternative software. Perfect example, isn't they, Sean?
Definitely.
Putting rubbish out, and there were some horrible software houses knocking about in those days. But yeah, the PlayStation 1, that generation, that old shovelware thing started from there, really. I mean, I've got some, as expected, some horrible titles in my PlayStation 1 collection. And you can just tell by looking at the covers, some of them are absolutely, look at the back of them, the covers are bad enough, let alone anything else.
The Game Boy Advance is shovelware king, because I downloaded a full library of GBA games, and I've been going through them. And there's a studio called DSi Games, which got nothing to do with the DSi console, but I'd say about 65-70% of the Game Boy Advance games are made by DSi Games or published by them, and they're all just like shocking, like sort of like Shrek Racing Parade or something like that. I don't know. It's all like some kind of license for kids, and then just some awful game tacked onto it. It's so much shovelware on the Game Boy Advance. It's untrue.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've probably shot myself in the foot here, but Stuart does make a very, very good point that the 2600 was the start of shovelware, because had there not been shovelware on the 2600, the games industry possibly wouldn't have collapsed at the time. But again, that's another conversation for another time. Dylan says the N64 is great with 4 controllers. Many nights playing it with mates. Snowball Kids is a great multiplayer game too. Joe Gavin Goody picked up all the Sega Saturn stuff, games, consoles years back at car boot sale as it's pricey now. Yeah, probably not a system that you want to get into if you haven't got a budget set for it. Doctor Who says the Shovel Knight was the start of shovelware. How many of Russ's Wii collection is shovelware? Yeah, most of it. most of it. But like I said, it's cheap insulation. I said it before. It's that time of year, it's getting colder now. You need to get that insulation in there.
Stuff it all going cheap.
Yeah. That's it. Nath agrees with me. None of it. It's all gold. There we go. There we go. So, getting towards the end now, chaps. Anybody want to add anything about the systems we talked about tonight as sort of a finishing point? Sean, I know obviously you've your issues with the N64, but for this particular this 5th generation of consoles, how what your, I suppose, overall assessment of that generation was.
I think I'll pick up on what James mentioned pretty much at the beginning, that it was that generation was basically one of the last generations of where you could actually see a difference from the previous generation. I know PS2, in a way, slightly smoother, well, a lot smoother graphics than that, but nowadays, you can't really tell one from the other. And I used to love, like back in the 8-bit days, I used to love seeing a change in the next generation and being in awe of the graphics. And that's exactly what the 5th generation did. And like I said, probably one of the last times really that I actually looked and thought, crikey. Like I said earlier, what is this sorcery? I was absolutely gobsmacked when I saw that PS1. I can't remember what game it was running, but whatever game it was running in Comet, I was absolutely gobsmacked. And like I said, it was one that I've got to have this. After that, I can't really say there is a console that I really, wanted as much as I did with the PS1. So yeah, for me, it was, the difference, seeing the difference from the previous generation to that generation. Yeah.
I agree with some of that. I mean, for me, the whole reason behind this generation is the fact that, with the PlayStation 1, it was seeing somebody else have it and actually playing on it and thinking, this is great, and then being in a position, therefore, to buy one myself. That was the first time I ever bought a console, with my own money. I mean, I'd been about 21, 22 at the time. And that was a completely new experience for me. It's like, I can actually go and buy one of these. I was really blown away by it at the time. But also, it exposed me to multiplayer games on the N64. Now, I might not have liked a lot of the games I played, and I might not have been any good at them, but, I got a lot of exposure from that system. But for me, the one that the disappointing side of it is the Saturn. Is that they completely passed me by. And I've said it before, it was a system that I wanted when I first started recollecting games. And I always wanted to get one, but I was just disappointed about whether I built it up and thought, oh, you're going to get a Saturn, they're really sought after. And I remember the games that came with, I got bundled with it, Virtua Fighter, Virtua Cop, Sega Rally, Tomb Raider, they were all in there. But I was just so underwhelmed by it. And in a way, really having the PlayStation 1 there sort of cemented my allegiance more to PlayStation than anything else for the next couple of 3 generations, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. So in a way, I've missed out on the Saturn. And I think having gone back to try and play it again, it's still not connected with me. It's probably worth giving it another go, certainly, because the other 2 systems I do like, but it's for me the one that I tend to ignore for whatever reason. That's it's down to me to sort that out and try again and play it. What about you, Pete? What about you?
I don't know. I just this generation of consoles, it's probably my most formative. It's when I sort of came of age was through this generation of consoles, so it's always going to be special to me. Saying that I only ever had a PS1 at the time, but going back and getting the N64 and the PlayStation, and I want to go back and get other sort of kind of this generation consoles like the CD32 and stuff like that as well. So I don't know. It's just I feel like this is always going to mean the most to me because it's when I truly got into gaming and when I was sort of going from my teens to an adult, and it's like the fondest years of my life. Spent playing this, spent playing Metal Gear Solid for 7 or 8 times a year.
You never guess what that gets old.
Yeah, must have finished that game so many times.
And finally, James, to you.
I think it was a time when gaming truly went global as well. When you look at the sales of the PlayStation, not so much from the N64 or the Saturn part, but it was a system that went truly global everywhere. Everyone seems to be talking about games at that point, especially when in the playground at school. And it was big with the NES and the Mega Drive, but it sort of just came into its own. I personally think, and like Pete, it's probably the most fondest memories I've got of gaming. With it was easy to buy multi-taps as well, especially like the PlayStation 1 with international track and field, and obviously the N64 with its 4 ports straight away, 4 players out of the box. It was a fantastic time for gaming, I think, and the most fun time I have with it.
Yeah, it's good points, Melway. Well made, folks. Thanks for going through those. Nice. So the Saturn, the worst it failed. PlayStation was boring and they never got better. N64 its best. Brought people together, as said the multiplayer. Pedro points out the bleeding obvious Japanese Saturn has to be Japanese.
Saturn's still the best, though.
Yeah, it's still. I can't see how it couldn't be Japanese if it wasn't. But anyway, there we go. Just trying to see something else in here. Nintendo's the most profitable were their hand tools. That's where they made their fortune. Conversation about the Nintendo Switch, but there anyway. Okay, no leave comments on that one for the moment. Right, I think we'll draw this one to a close then. Knocking on for nearly 2 hours. So thanks to everybody in the comments for contributing tonight. Sorry we're a little bit behind, but there's been some good chatter in there. And a few conversations going on. So we're going to go back and read the live chat when the stream sorts itself out. So it's probably sometime tomorrow. Go and have a look and see what we got conversation-wise in there. Thanks very much to Sean and Pete, as always, and very special thanks to our guest this evening, James Game Zone Birdroom, for bringing his subject up and coming along to talk about it. James, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Oh, absolutely loved it. Great to be on here with such great guys as well.
And me.
Been looked up. Been looked up. It's a great. No, yeah, you know I love you, Bear. You know I love you.
I just turn up and just do this bit and fire questions off. That's all I do. But no, it's been great having you on, mate. And I know this is a subject that you know, is obviously very close to your heart. You've done the Desert Island games. If anybody wants to go back and listen to James talk about his gaming history, etc., it's his favourite games.
Do go on a bit, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good fun. It was good fun. It was good fun, that one. Right. What else we said? James, have you got anything coming up on your channel? Just while you're here, quickly.
Just I don't know really. I just when I feel like doing a video really. It could be any. It could be nothing concrete. No, nothing at the moment. It's just when I feel like filming something, I'll put it out.
Sean, have you got anything coming out?
The only thing I've got coming up shortly is community news.
Yeah, we're all waiting for that, mate. Yeah.
I know, mate. I know. I'm a bit behind. I haven't got it recorded yet. I've got it scripted. It's ready to go. But and then,
get it out. Get it out.
I know. I'm gonna do.
Look forward to that, mate. Because everyone loves the community news. Thanks, Dana. We'll speak about that a bit later. So. Hope you're feeling better soon, mate, as well. Hope you'll be fitting ready for 2 weeks' time with the chicken. Pete, I'm going to ask you anything coming on your channel or anything planned shortly, or
one of these days I might do a video.
That's good. That's good. That's fine. It's exactly the same as myself, really. So that's it.
Yeah, it's been about a month now. I cannot be asked.
No, that's it. I asked the question last time I was on, and everybody said no, so that was all right. So, just one of those things. Have I got anything coming? I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing next? Desert Island Games next Saturday. A few technical problems this week. We couldn't get an episode out. Also got the third round of Feed Me Chicken against Subi next Saturday night at 9:30.
Look forward to that. Hopefully, chicken will lose again.
Team Basumi.
All he's got to do is Mr. Chicken's got to do is nick on the first cup next Saturday, and he's going to turn it on its head, mate. He's going to turn it on its head.
He's a bully and a racist against James.
Fighting talk there. Get yourself into trouble, mate, if you're not careful. He'll be after you again.
Yeah. Let him try.
Oh dear. Yeah, so that's it. And a quick mention that this time next week it will be Swap Shop with the Retro Chef over on his channel as well. And we're back in 2 weeks' time. So, guys, I'm going to drop you all backstage, but thanks very much indeed for giving it your time again. If you want to give everybody a quick wave before I head you off. Thank you, Sean. Just making sure he gives a quick wave. Yeah, that's it. So we're back in 2 weeks' time. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the shape of the program will be in 2 weeks' time, because that is the evening after the Doncaster Gaming Market. Now, myself, I'm not going, so it might just be me here on my own. But there may be possibly one or two people who will pop on and show off what they've been picking up that day. It might be a fairly short program. I don't know, but there will be something in 2 weeks' time. And then on the 19th of December, which is our last podcast of the year, we've got a guest lined up for already and a subject. I'm not going to reveal that until much closer to the time, though, because it's going to be our Christmas special as well, something a bit different to talk about. And very pleased to say I've got a YouTuber I wanted to get on to do this for quite some time coming along for that as well. So definitely worth keeping an eye out for. That's the 19th of December, and possibly me and whatever I can rummage together on the 5th of December as well. Until then, this is the Retro Bear saying thank you ever so much for being here tonight. I think we've hit 31, 32 tonight on the old chat and people viewing. That's fantastic. Great to see so many people in. Do take care, and we'll see you again very soon. But until then, it's bye for now.